Genesis chapter 41, Pharaoh's dream. After 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile when 7 cows, sleek and fat, came up from the Nile and began to feed among the rushes. Behind them came 7 other cows from the Nile, lean and scraggy, and stood on the banks of the Nile because the cows already there. These devoured the sleek and fat cows. Then Pharaoh awoke. He fell asleep again and had a second dream. He saw growing on one stalk 7 ears of corn that were plump and ripe. And after these there sprouted 7 more ears of corn that were thin and scorched by the east wind. Now the thin ears of corn swallowed up the 7 plump and ripe ones. Then Pharaoh awoke and realized that it was a dream. In the morning he was uneasy and called all the magicians and wise men in Egypt. He told his dreams to them, but not one among them was able to interpret his dreams. Then the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh. This reminds me of my wrongs. Pharaoh was angry with his servants and had me and the chief baker put in custody in the house of the captain of the guard. Once on the same night we both had a dream, each with its own meaning. With us was a young Hebrew, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him our dreams, he interpreted them, giving to each one its own meaning. What he interpreted for us actually came to pass. I was restored to my office and the chief baker was hanged. Pharaoh then had Joseph summoned, and they took him quickly from the prison. When he had shaved and changed his clothes, he presented himself to Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh addressed him, I have had a dream which no one can explain. Now I have heard about you, that when you hear a dream, you are able to interpret it. Joseph replied, It is not at all I, but God who will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. Pharaoh then began telling Joseph his dream. In my dream I was standing beside the Nile when 7 fine cows, sleek and fat, came up from the river and began to feed in the rushes. Then 7 other cows came up behind them. These were poor, scraggy and lean. I had never seen such ugly cows in all the land of Egypt. The thin-corned cows ate up the first 7 cows, but after they had consumed them, it was as if they had not eaten them at all, because they remained as lean and scraggy as they were before. And then I woke up. I also saw in another dream 7 ears of corn growing on one stalk, full and ripe. Then after them there sprouted 7 ears of corn that were thin and scorched and withered by the east wind. The withered ears of corn swallowed up the 7 good ears. I told this to the magicians, but none of them could explain its meaning. Then Joseph said, Pharaoh's dreams are one and the same. God has just revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 fat cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. It is one dream. The 7 lean and scraggy cows coming after them are 7 years, as are the 7 withered ears of corn, scourged by the east wind, and they are 7 years of famine. As I said to Pharaoh, God is revealing to him what he is about to do. 7 years are coming, and there will be great prosperity throughout the land of Egypt, but they will be followed by 7 years of famine. Then the time of abundance will be forgotten, and famine will exhaust the land. So severe will the famine be that no one will remember the time of plenty. If then Pharaoh had the same dream twice, it is because God has so determined and will soon make it happen. Now it is for Pharaoh to choose an intelligent and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Pharaoh could have supervisors in the land and could levy a tax of 1/5 of the produce of the land during the 7 years of plenty. Let them get all the food of these productive years that are coming, and by the authority of Pharaoh store grain for food in the towns and keep it. This food will be a reserve for the 7 years of famine that are coming up to the land of Egypt, so that the people will not die of hunger. Joseph placed in charge of Egypt. The proposal of Joseph pleased Pharaoh and his ministers, and Pharaoh asked him, "Where shall we find anyone else like this man, possessed by the Spirit of God?" And to Joseph he said, "Since it is you that God has made known all this, there can be no one as intelligent and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people will obey your orders. Only as far as the throne is concerned will I be greater than you." So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt." He then took the signet ring from his finger and put it on Joseph's finger. He clothed him in fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride in the chariot that was second only to his, and they cried out before him, "Make way." Thus he was put in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, but without your consent no one is to raise hand or foot in the whole land of Egypt." Pharaoh named Joseph Zephaniah and gave him in marriage Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. After that Joseph took charge of the whole of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he was summoned to the presence of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. After taking his leave of Pharaoh, he journeyed through the entire land of Egypt. During the 7 years of plenty, the land produced abundantly. So Joseph gathered up all the food that was produced during these 7 years, storing in each town the food from the fields around it. Joseph stored huge quantities of wheat, like the sand by the sea, so much that they lost count of the amount. Before the years of famine came, Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bore Joseph 2 sons. Joseph called his firstborn Manasseh, for he said, "God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's household." He called the second by the name of Ephraim, for he said, "God has made me fruitful with children in the land of my sorrow." When the 7 years of plenty throughout the land of Egypt came to an end, the 7 years of famine began as Joseph had foretold. There was famine in all the countries, but food was to be had in every part of Egypt. When the land of Egypt began to suffer from the famine, the people came to Pharaoh for food. But Pharaoh told all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you." When the famine had spread throughout the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold grain to the Egyptians, for the famine was indeed severe over the land. As the famine had worsened throughout the whole world, people came from other countries to buy grain from Joseph. Genesis chapter 42. Joseph's brothers go down to Egypt. When Jacob heard that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you stand looking at one another? I have heard that there is grain in Egypt, so go down and buy some for us, so that we may stay alive and not die." 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to Egypt to buy wheat. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, for he said, "Something might happen to him." So the sons of Israel were among those going to buy grain, for there was famine in Canaan. It was Joseph, as governor of the land, who sold the grain to all the people. When his brothers arrived, they bowed before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph recognized his brothers, but did not make himself known, and instead said harshly to them, "Where do you come from?" And he answered, "We come from the land of Canaan to buy grain for food." Joseph indeed recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And he remembered the dreams he once had concerning them. He told them, "You are spies, and it is to discover the weak points of the land that you have come." They said, "No, my lord, your servants have come to buy grain for food. We are all sons of the same man. We are honest men. Your servants are not spies." Joseph replied, "No, it is to find out the weak points of the country that you have come. They said, "Your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. The youngest is today with our father, and the other is no more." But Joseph insisted, "It is just as I said, you are spies, and this is how it will be proved. By the life of Pharaoh, you will not leave this place until your youngest brother comes here. One of you is to go and fetch your brother. The others will be imprisoned while I verify whether you are telling the truth. If not, then as true as Pharaoh lives, you are spies." And so he put them all in prison for 3 days. On the third day, Joseph said to them, "Do this, and I will help you to save yourselves, for I am a man who fears God. If you are sincere, let one of your brothers remain prisoner in the house where you are imprisoned, and the rest of you take the grain to save your families from famine. Then you will bring back your youngest brother, so the truth of what you say will be proved and your life spared." They did as they were ordered and said among themselves, "Alas, we are being punished because of the way we treated our brother when he pleaded with us for mercy, but we did not listen. That is why this trouble has come upon us." Reuben answered them, "Did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen. Now we are brought to account for his blood." Now they did not realize that Joseph understood them, as there was an interpreter between them. As for Joseph, he withdrew and wept. When he came back, he spoke to them and took Simeon and had him bound while they looked on. Joseph ordered their sacks to be filled with wheat and their money replaced in the sack of each one, and provisions be given them for the journey. All this was done. They loaded the grain on their donkeys and set off. But in the evening one of them emptied his sack to feed his donkey at the lodging place, and he saw his money at the mouth of the sack. So he said, "My money has been put back. Here it is in my sack." Their hearts failed them, and they trembled and turned to each other and said, "What is this that God has done to us?" When they came back to Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened. "The man who is governor of the country spoke harshly to us and treated us as spies. But we said, 'We are honest men, not spies. We were 12 brothers, sons of the same father. One is no more, and the youngest is with our father in the land of Canaan.' Then the man who is Lord of the land said, 'By this I will know if you are honest. Leave one of your brothers here. Take grain to save your families from the famine, and go. Bring your youngest brother and let me see you are not spies but honest men. Then I shall release your brother and you can move about freely in the land.' Now when they emptied their sacks, each one found his money back in his sack. When they saw this, they were afraid, and their father as well. Jacob their father said to them, 'You are taking my children from me. Joseph is no more. Simeon has gone, and now you are taking Benjamin. I have all these to bear.' Then Reuben said to his father, 'You may have the lives of my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Entrust him to me, and I shall see that he comes back to you.' But Jacob said, 'My son will not go with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone is left. If he were to meet with some misfortune on the way, you would send my grey hair down to the underworld in sorrow.'" Psalm chapter 20, a prayer for the king's victory. May the Lord answer you in the day of distress. May the name of Jacob's God give you protection. May he send you help from the sanctuary and give you support from Mount Zion. May he remember all your oblations and look favorably on your burnt offerings. May he grant you your heart's desire and fulfill all your plans. In your victory let us shout for joy and raise our banner in the name of our God. May the Lord grant all your requests. Now I know that the Lord saves his anointed. He has answered him from his holy heaven with victories from his right hand. Some boast of chariots, some of horses, but our boast is in the name of the Lord our God. Their forces will collapse and will be crushed, but ours shall rise and stand firm. When we call, answer us, O Lord, make the King victorious. Matthew chapter 13, verse 31 to 58. The mustard seed and the yeast. Jesus put another parable before them. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed which a man took and sowed in his field. It is smaller than all other seeds, but once it has fully grown, it is bigger than any garden plant and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and rest in its branches. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like the yeast which a woman took and buried in 3 measures of flour until the whole mass of dough began to rise. Jesus taught all this to the crowds by means of parables. He did not say anything to them without using parable. So what the prophet had said was fulfilled. I will speak in parables. I will proclaim things kept secret since the beginning of the world. Then he sent the crowds away and went into the house. And his disciple came to him, saying, Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field. Jesus answered them, The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed is the people of the kingdom. The weeds are those who belong to the evil one. The enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of time, and the workers are the angels. Just as the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, that is how it will be at the end of time. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will weed out of his kingdom all that is scandalous and all who do evil. And these will be thrown in the blazing furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the just will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. If you have ears, then hear. The parables of the treasure and the pearl. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. The man who finds it buries it again, and so happy is he that he goes and sells everything he has, so that he may buy that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a trader who is looking for fine pearls. Once he found a pearl of exceptional quality, he goes away, sells everything he has, and buys it. The parable of the net. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a big fishing net let down into the sea, in which every kind of fish has been caught. When the net is full, it is dragged ashore. Then they sit down and gather the good fish in baskets, but throw the worthless ones away. That is how it will be at the end of time. The angels will go out to separate the wicked from the just and throw them into the blazing furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Jesus asked, Have you understood all these things? Yes, they answered. So he said to them, Well, therefore, every teacher of the law who becomes a disciple of the kingdom is like a householder who takes out from his storeroom things both new and old. Jesus visits Nazareth. When Jesus had finished these parables, he left the place. He went to his hometown and taught the people in their synagogue. They were amazed and said, Where did he get this wisdom and these special powers? Is he not the carpenter's son? Is not Mary his mother, and are not James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas his brothers? Are not all his sisters living here? How did he get all this? And so they took offense at him. Jesus said to them, A prophet is respected everywhere except in his hometown and his own family. And he did not perform many miracles there because of their lack of faith.